Hey, welcome back to another edition of the Amplified Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jac Carnett, and we are moving through Genesis pretty quickly. I forget how many chapters Genesis has. Let's look real quick. Genesis has 50 chapters. And so we are on chapter 30 tonight. And so in about 2 weeks, we're going to be moving, in a few weeks, we'll be moving on to Exodus in a little while. But tonight, we're going to be looking at the remaining sons of Jacob. And as we talked about last week, these are the tribes of Israel. These are the boys that kind of started it all. And last week, we saw how Leah gave birth to the first 4 of those boys. We saw how Jacob kind of finally meets his match in trickery and in deception. He deceived his brother twice out of 2 monumental things in their family. And then he's sent away to his own family in the North Country, and he is deceived just as crazily. And so we see him set up the city of Bethel. We see him marry and meet Rachel and marry and meet Leah at literally the exact same time. And so tonight we're going to see how the rest of these boys are born. And then we're going to see how Jacob actually leaves home to go back leaves his temporary home, Haran, and goes back down to the south to modern day Israel, to where he was in the first place. And so, that's what we're going to be going through tonight. We're going to have a good time. I don't know if I have any announcements other than please like and subscribe and send this to your friends. We want as many people as possible to know about the Bible. And so really, as we're going through, we're kind of refining what this podcast is for. And I was talking to my producer, Matt, and we were talking for a long time about who we should really be targeting for this podcast. And I really want to target Generation Z. And so obviously anyone is allowed to watch this podcast, and I encourage you to do so. But I really want to use this as a new avenue to raise up Generation Z. Basically, anybody born after me did not grow up in Sunday school. And so hopefully this is a chance for you to learn more about the Bible. And hopefully we can answer some really tough questions that Generation Z has. In the coming weeks, after youth camp, I'm going to youth camp next week, we are going to be putting out some shorts. If you're over the age of 30, a short is a 60-second video that you see on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. And ours will be obviously plugging the Amplified Podcast, but at the same time, the goal is to start answering some really tough questions about Christianity, about the church that Generation Z has. Why do we believe what we believe about homosexuality? Why is it important to get married before we live together? Why does if God is all love, why do some people go to heaven, some people go to hell? And so we're going to be trying to answering some of those. I'm going to be doing a little bit of writing to get ready for those. And if you're following along, my dog has not been sprayed by any more skunks, so thank God for that. And if you need recommendations of soap, I can finally give you one for if your dog's ever sprayed by a skunk. It is the worst. And so we're going to jump into it. Last thing, as always, I want to plug the Alabaster Bibles. This is the Revelation one. They are not a sponsor. I just am a huge fan of them. And so these are the kind of 2 Bibles that I read. I read my Amplified, but then I also read through these. And so I've read all the way through this one, but it's just, aesthetic pictures that go along exactly with the text, and they work as really great gifts. And so I've been gifted a lot of these, and I'm sure in the next couple of years, they're going to have done all the books of the Bible. I guess you could say they've done some of the more popular books first. But I highly recommend them as gifts. And I should, if you're watching this, I'm at youth camp this week, and hopefully youth camp is going well. And then on top of that, we should have a podcast is out the following week as well. I'll just record it on Saturday. You don't need to know all this. I don't know why I'm saying it out loud. So let's go ahead and jump right into Genesis 30. So this is when we're going to meet the remaining sons of Jacob. And so just as a recap, not that you necessarily need this, but Jacob, for, lack of a better term, he is married to 4 different women. So we have Jacob here at the top. We have let's put the maids on the outside. Let's see. Let's add them in here as well. Okay. So we have Zilpah, who is Leah's maid. And of course, we remember that Leah was the one that Jacob slept with first and was technically married to first. But then on the other side, we have Rachel, who he really wanted to be married to, Rachel Green, and her maid, Bilhah, that came with her. Again, the behavior of these boys is not recommended on behalf of the Lord. These boys are going to make a lot of mistakes. Throughout the Bible, but over the course of their lives, they are trying their best to be faithful to Yahweh. We never see Jacob, to my knowledge, fall into worshiping other gods or consulting idols. We don't see that with Isaac. We don't see that with Abraham, to my knowledge. And so God is looking at the overall faithfulness of their life more than he is the individual mistakes and sins that they get involved in, which is why when we accept Jesus into our hearts, he doesn't get to heaven and then kind of berate us when we get there. If we've accepted him, he says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And so he's looking at the faithfulness of their lives. So again, this is not an endorsement on behalf. Hey, you guys sit down. Sit. Down. No. Down. If you're listening, I'm talking to my dog. Stay. Just chill. Okay. All right. We're back. It's not an endorsement on behalf of the Lord that he's, kind of married to these 4 women, but God is going to be faithful to what he promised, based off of the overall faithfulness of his life. The faithfulness of his father's life, especially the faithfulness of his grandfather's life. And we're going to see God create an entire nation from him. And so the first son that we see comes from Leah, and we'll just go right underneath Leah here if you're watching. The second son is Simeon. The third son is Levi, who technically does not become a tribe, and neither does Reuben, but we'll learn about that soon. And fourth is the all-important tribe of Judah. Okay, all of those came from Leah. Those are the first 4 sons of Jacob. So it says this in chapter 30. If you have your Amplified Bible, go ahead and open it up. Genesis 30. When Rachel saw that she had conceived no children for Jacob, she envied her sister and said to Jacob, "Give me children or else I will die." So for some reason, she thinks that it's possible that it's Jacob's fault. This could be like a sister-wives situation where he's just sleeping with one of them for a night. I don't know. Also, I never watched Sister Wives, but this is how I imagine it. She said, Jacob then became furious with Rachel and said, "Am I in the place of God who has denied you children?" So yeah, he's getting at the same thing that I am. That he's like, "Why are you blaming me?" She said, "Here, take my maid Bilhah, go into her, and when the baby comes, she shall deliver it while sitting on my knees, so that I may also have children to count as my own." Again, we reiterate this over and over. This is not an endorsement on behalf of the Lord. The fact that these boys are listed here, the fact that God is blessing them, God is blessing them because of the other moments of faithfulness in their life, and the other moments of their parents' faithfulness in life, but we're also in this seeing the real things that they're thinking, that their wives are thinking, that the mistakes that they're making. This is not an endorsement to say that she should get to have ownership now of her maid's daughter. And so, but that's what they do. And it says, so she gave him Bilhah, her maid, as a secondary wife, and Jacob went into her. And Bilhah conceived and gave birth to a son for Jacob. Then Rachel said, God has judged and vindicated me. He has heard my plea and has given me a son through my maid. So she named him Dan. He judged. And so already here, I think God loves children. Let me say that. I think that God wants us to fulfill his word, to fulfill the earth and multiply and be fruitful. I think two very real things are happening here. I think Jacob is married to Bilhah now and is growing that, let's say, this section of the family with her. That is true. And I also think that God sees Rachel and what she's going through and loves her very much. I think that oftentimes we can take two things that are true and bring them together as if one has caused the other. And I think I see that here with Rachel, in my own opinion, that she's taking how God is faithful to give her maid a child as belief that God has judged that she's in the right in this case, that she's kind of taking one good thing and making it mean something possibly different for herself. And so we kind of see this in movies a lot, where maybe the criminal in the movie, not to say that Rachel's a criminal, but think about it like this. If there's a criminal in the movie and somehow they evade the cops for some reason, and they say, God must be on our side. We evaded the cops. We're seeing a, correlation between two things that's not really there. Kind of like how murders go up in the summer, but also statistically, so do ice cream sales at almost the exact same slope. Ice cream doesn't cause murders in the same way murder doesn't cause ice cream. There's just two things that are true at the exact same time. And so I think we can get in trouble there where we start to judge the events in our life in that way, instead of actually asking the Lord and seeing what's going on. Not to say that she's not, or just that we know what we know, and she's seeing this new baby coming along. Let's go ahead and write him down. We have Dan, who's number 5. We can put numbers next to him as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't even see Dan over there. I'll put it down lower. Dan is down here. Dan is number 5 down here. I think two things are true at the same time here. And so it's important to consult the Lord, to have a relationship with him and find out, what is truly true in this case. It's kind of rabbit trail, just what I'm thinking off the top of my head. So Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again and gave birth to a second son for Jacob. So Rachel said, with mighty wrestlings and prayer to God, I have struggled with my sister and have prevailed. So she named him Naphtali, my wrestlings. We'll put him down here. Naphtali. Naphtali. Again, she's equating something that's true with something else that she feels in her life and putting them together. It's not always the case that the two are connected. So when Leah saw that she had stopped bearing children, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her to Jacob as a secondary wife. So Leah's like, she can do it, I'm going to do it. So she does the same thing. So now Jacob really is married to 4 different women. Hey, I'm recording this podcast, not you. Can you sit down? Can you sit? Okay. Yeah. Good job. Handhold. Okay. Go down. No. Okay. Whatever. Okay. Zilpah is now married to Jacob as well. And I've written in my Bible here that Jacob is living it up. I know he's got 4 women with him. And so it's a wild story. It's a wild story. Let's say that. Okay. So Zilpah, Leah's maid, gave birth to a son for Jacob. Then Leah said, "How fortunate." So she named him Gad, meaning good fortune. So now we have number 7. Gad. That's an A. So everybody knows Gad, not God. Verse 13, and Leah said, "I am happy for women." Okay. Zilpah, Leah's maid, gave birth to a second son for Jacob. Then Leah said, "I am happy for women will call me happy." So she named him Asher, which means happy. Hey, can you not breathe so loud? Now at the time of the wheat harvest, Reuben, the eldest son, went and found some mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother, Leah. So we have a little connection here between the two. Then Rachel said to Leah, said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But Leah answered, "Is it a small thing that you have taken my husband? Are you now going to take my son's mandrakes as well?" So obviously this is starting to reach a boiling point. I'm sure it has many times in the family already, where she's like, "You've already stolen my husband. Are you going to take my grapes now too? Like, what else do you want from me, woman?" But Leah answered, "So why would you take my mandrakes also?" So Rachel said, "Jacob shall sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes." So maybe she's like, "Look, I don't want to fight about it. You can have him tonight. Please just give me some fruit." Man. Again, let me connect this as well. Solomon was married to 600 wives. Of course, a lot of those are political, but if you read Proverbs several times over, Solomon writes, "It is better to live peacefully on the corner of a rooftop than in a beautiful palace with a quarrelsome woman." So it's funny that we don't really see Jacob in this little part of the story, because I can only imagine how much fighting was going on. Probably enough to make a TV show. And they did. So Rachel said, "Jacob shall sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes." When Jacob came in from the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, like I said, Jacob's not there for this conversation. Leah went out to meet him and said, "You must sleep with me tonight, for I have in fact hired you with my son's mandrakes." So he slept with her that night. It's funny that the Bible says hired. I don't really have anything else to comment about that. It's just funny that this dude is being tossed around so much that, he probably spends most of his days out in the field just so he doesn't have to hear all the fighting going on between 4 wives. I think it's a good reason why we're married to one person. And so he slept with her that night, and God listened and answered the prayer of Leah, and she conceived and gave birth to a son for Jacob. Then Leah said, "God has given me my reward, because I've given my maid to my husband." So she named him Issachar. Issachar. He is now the 9th. Asher was 8. Issachar is the 9th child of Jacob. And I think we see this again, that she's equating 2 different things. Leah said, "God has given me my reward because I've given my maid to my husband." I don't know, with the character that I see in God, with the exclusivity that he feels toward Israel as his bride, and his unwillingness to take any other people as his bride, I don't see him really blessing polygamy in this way. But again, she's taking one thing that's true. Leah has a child. And another thing that's true, Leah gave her maid to Jacob to become his, 3rd wife, 4th wife. And she's putting those 2 together. And so we have to be careful what 2 things we put together and assign to the Lord. That can be really dangerous when we start to make assumptions in that way without actually seeking what the Lord has to say in any case. And so Leah said, "God has endowed me with good." So Leah conceived again and gave birth to a 6th son for Jacob. Leah is killing out here. She gave birth to half the tribes of Israel. Leah said, "God has endowed me with a good marriage gift for my husband. Now he will live with me, regarding me with honor as his wife, because I've given birth to 6 sons. So she named him Zebulun. Zebulun, the 10th son of Israel, or Jacob in this case, at this point in the story. Afterwards, she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. We're going to put her to the side down here. Dinah is we'll call her the first daughter down there. Then God remembered the prayers of Rachel, and God thought of her and opened her womb so that she would conceive. So she conceived and gave birth to a son, and she said, God has taken away my disgrace and my humiliation. She named him Joseph. May he add. Joseph just means may he add. And said, may the Lord add to me another son. So now we have Rachel has her first child, names him Joseph. He is the 11th, and as we'll soon find out, the 12th, 11 and 12th tribes of Israel. As I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering, why does God show so much faithfulness in giving children to Leah over Rachel, it seems in this case? And, I kind of see it like this. It wasn't Leah's fault that she was given in marriage to Jacob. It wasn't Leah's fault that she looked different. I mean, it could have been possibly, but it wasn't her fault that she wasn't as beautiful in the eyes of Jacob, and now she's forcefully put into this marriage. And so it almost seems like God is looking on her with grace and saying, I know that you're in an uncomfortable situation. I know that you weren't the one that he wanted. I know all these things that are true. And so I'm going to give you a child, and I'm going to make you a mother 6 times over. And I know that kind of automatically goes against what I've been saying this whole podcast about taking 2 things that are true and connecting them. But I think I'm right in this case. So I think God is so gracious to see what we're going through and bless us in an amazing way where she may not have the husband that she always wanted. She's kind of forced into this marriage, but God does bless her with six boys in this case. And so I think it's just a testament to God's grace. And we also see the graciousness and the loving father that he is over Rachel, where Rachel prays and prays and prays, and God miraculously opens up her womb so that she can have a child. And, we've talked about this before, about struggling to conceive, and God is so gracious and so faithful. And so my encouragement to you as someone who's never experienced that is, keep seeking the Lord, and don't give up. Don't give up, because God still listens and answers prayers. He still does. He still does amazing things. And so, God still does amazing things. And these are now the 11 sons of Jacob, technically the 12 tribes. And we'll see how this isn't like a perfect list of the tribes. And you'll find out here why in just a second. But for lack of a better term, these are the 12 tribes. And Gad was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's move on. Now, when Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, send me away so that I may go back to my own place and my own country. So now he wants to go home. Give me my wives and my children for whom I've served you, and let me go, for you know the work which I have done for you. But Laban said to him, if I found favor in your sight, stay with me. For I have learned from the omens in divination and by experience that the Lord has blessed me because of you. He said, name your wages and I will give it to you. So Jacob is starting to feel homesick. He's ready to go home. He has his sons around him, and he's ready to go back to his home country. But it seems like Laban either likes him, or Laban likes the fact that As long as Jacob's in his house, he's getting serious blessing out of it. And the Bible tells us here, in this case, at least my Amplified Bible does, that he's learned that the Lord has blessed him because Jacob's living in his house, because of the omens and the divination, the witchcraft that he's involved in. I mean, literal witchcraft that he's involved in. Tells him, rightfully so, that Jacob is the source of his blessing, and so he doesn't really want to let the golden goose go. So he says, listen, name your price, tell me whatever you want, and I'll give it to you. So Jacob answered him, you know how I've served you, and how your possessions, your cattle, your sheep, your goats have fared with me. For you had little before I came, and it has increased and multiplied abundantly, and the Lord has favored you with blessings wherever I turned. But now, when shall I provide for my own household? So again, he's not saying, he's not giving him an answer. He's saying, listen, you know that you've done great because I've been in your house. So now it's time for me to build my own house. It's time for me to go and live somewhere else. And this is another, blessing that we get to see as believers, that, if we're going to be faithful to the Lord, I mean, people around us get to be blessed even by association to us. And so while you may see some people that are not wanting to be around you because you're a Christian, there may come a time where people start to want to be and work for you because God does bless you, and God does bless the people around you simply because of your faithfulness. And so this is a perfect example of it. This is going to turn into a longer podcast, but that's okay. So Laban asked, what shall I give you? Again, he's asking me, tell me what you want. I want you to stay in the house. Jacob replied, you shall not give me anything, but if you will do this one thing for you, or for me, which I now propose, I will again pasture your sheep and keep your flocks. So he's like, all right, fine. I'll give you a number. He says this, let me pass through your entire flock today. Let me look through all the animals, and removing from it every speckled and spotted sheep and every dark or black one among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and those shall be my wages. Saying, listen, I'll even give you a deal. All of the abnormal from the flock, there's supposed to be white sheep in the flock, but all the ones that have spots or are that are darker, that are, the ones that are the outliers, let me have those, and those will be my wages. So my honesty will be evident for me later when you come for an accounting concerning my wages. So he's saying, like, listen, I don't want you to come through and have to count them. You can just look at all the ones that I have and know that I'm being honest with you. Every one that is not speckled or spotted among the goats and dark among the young lambs, if found with me, shall be considered stolen. And Laban said, good, let it be done as you say. So on that same day, now imagine, like, if you're watching a movie, it's like a cut, and we see Laban sneaking around. So on that same day, Laban secretly removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one with white on it, and all the dark ones among the sheep, and put them in the care of his sons. So he goes out, he's like, yeah, that sounds good to me, guy. You can go out there and do that. But then secretly, he goes out and he takes away all the ones that, Jacob would have gotten in this deal, and he gives them to his sons. And he put a distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob was left in the care of the rest of Laban's flock. So now Jacob's going to go through all of the animals and see, as of today, all the animals look normal. And so, again, we see deception that's planted in the life of Jacob, and it's now being reaped in the form of Laban, okay? Then Jacob took branches of fresh poplar and almond and plane trees and peeled white stripes in them, exposing the white in the branches. Okay, this is very odd, so just stay with me. So he's peeling back these branches. He set the branches which had been peeled in front of the flocks of the watering troughs, and where the flocks came to drink, and they mated and conceived when they came to drink. So you have the watering troughs, you have the branches now on the ground that have been peeled away by Jacob, and you have the animals coming up to drink. And when they're seeing the branches, they're mating. So the flocks mated and conceived by the branches, and the flocks gave birth to streaked and speckled, spotted offspring. So now they were all normal ones, but now all these normal sheep are giving birth to speckled and spotted, and the same with the goats. Jacob separated the lambs as he had done with peeled branches, and he made the flocks face toward the streets. Okay, let me I have to wrap my head around this as well. So verse 40, Jacob separated the lambs, and as he had done with the peeled branches, he made the flocks face toward the streaked, and all the darker black in the new flock of Laban, and he put his own herd apart by themselves and did not put them where they could breed with Laban's flock. So now he's separating out, as he said he was going to do, separating out the abnormal ones from all of the normal colored ones. Furthermore, when the stronger animals of the flock were breeding, Jacob would place the branches in the side of the flock in the watering trough so that they would mate and conceive among the branches. But when the flock was sickly, he did not put the branches there, and the sicker animals were Laban's and the stronger were Jacob's. So now, as I was reading the commentary about this, it's possible that the ones being born in the fall were stronger because the animals have been eating all summer. Their body weights are up. The ones being born in the spring are going to be the weaker ones because they don't eat as much during the winter because there's 2 births throughout the year. So as Jacob is doing this, Jacob became exceedingly prosperous and had large flocks of sheep and goats and female and male servants and camels and donkeys. All these ones that he has are with defects. Now, it's very odd that he would put a branch in front of the troughs, and now suddenly all the animals are giving birth to the exact type that he would have gained had Laban not been deceitful. And I read all these different commentaries, read like 10 different commentaries about this section, and none of them really give a good explanation for this. And so you're going to get my explanation now. Okay, so the branch here that we see is a tree. It's very obvious, okay? Let's go back to kindergarten. It's a tree. When Elisha was performing one of his miracles, there was an axe head that fell down in the water. Axe head made of iron, metal, whatever, sinks down to the bottom of the river. Of course, we know. So Elisha takes a branch in the same way Laban does, and he throws it into the water. And, Jacob puts it in front of the water. And when he throws the branch in, all of a sudden this axe head floats up to the surface, defying the laws of physics. It's a miraculous thing. In the same way that it's a miraculous thing that all these normal sheep and goats are giving birth to speckled and spotted ones that Jacob would get to take home. So my thought is, in the same way that I preached that for Elisha, is that it is the faithfulness here. It was an act of faith to throw the branch into the water. It's an act of faith to take this branch and put it between the flocks and the water. And God is rewarding that act of faith. God sees that in this case, Jacob has been deceived. He's been tricked. And so God is fighting for those that have been undermined. God is fighting for the underdog. God is fighting for the one that has been wronged. That's what God does. He is a defender. And so he does that in the genetics of these animals, and he's defending them. And I think that the branch is important because the branch serves as like this type and shadow of our faithfulness in the cross later on. So Jesus, in the same way, is nailed to a branch. He's nailed to wood, part of a tree. And when we put our faith in the one who was nailed to the tree, then we get the blessing, and we get the miraculous acts, and we get the Spirit. We get everything that comes with Jesus. And so this is simply an act of faith, and the branch serves as the sign of the act of faith, in the same way that I think the cross does, and it's in the same way that we see the branch of Elisha thrown into the water. It's an act of faith. Faith didn't just come along, with Oral Roberts in the 50s. It didn't come along with, the outpouring of the Holy Spirit on the day of Pentecost after Jesus went back to heaven. Faith has been, the sustaining factor through the entire, saga of human history. And Jacob is no different in this case. And God is defending Jacob. And so If I was going to write a commentary, probably sounds something like that. Okay, chapter 31. Chapter 31. This one shouldn't be as much of a mouthful, but we're going to kind of get to see, this is kind of a bit like a soap opera in this case. This is one of the parts of the Bible where we get to see a very detailed description of this, this family gathering that's happening. So Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, Jacob has taken away everything that was our father's and from what belonged to our father, and he has acquired all the wealth and honor. So now his sons are getting envious. And we talked about this a couple episodes that the blessing of God starts with envy and ends with fear, where the people around us start to envy us because of the way God blesses us, but then God blesses you so much more that they begin to fear you. And so they're in the envy stage right now. Jacob noticed a change in the attitude of Laban as well and saw that he was not friendly toward him as before. And again, it's probably because they made a deal and the providence of God has made it so that all of these new flocks that are being born, Laban doesn't get to keep hardly any of them because they all keep coming out spotted and speckled, regardless of which ones that they mate together. And he's getting all the weak animals and Jacob's getting all the strong animals because God's blessing him. So Jacob, then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your people, and I will be with you. Now, 2 episodes ago, we talked about how it was Rebekah, Jacob's mother, who said, go to Laban's house. I'll send for you when your brother's anger finally goes away. We don't see that. She was the reason why Jacob deceived his father out of Esau's blessing. And she presumably thinks that she's still going to be around to, reap the benefits of that and get to see her son again. But it's actually God that sends him back home. So, don't be deceptive. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to his flock in the field. And he said to them, I see a change in your father's attitude, that he's not as friendly to me as he was before. But the God of my father Isaac has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength. You know that I've been good to your dad. Yet your father has cheated me as often as possible and changed my wages 10 times, but God did not allow him to hurt me. So again, God is fighting for the one that he is faithful to. God is fighting for those that are being undermined. And this is the same for us today. If you can be faithful to the Lord, even in times where you're being taken advantage of, God will be the one that, delivers you. God can handle any kind of crazy boss that you might have. If he said the speckled shall be your wages, then the entire flock gave birth to speckled young. And if he said the streak shall be your wages, then the entire flock gave to streaked young. God is faithful, even down to the genetics of these animals. Thus God has taken away the flocks of your father and given them to me. And it happened at the time that the flock conceived that I looked up and saw in a dream that the rams, which mated with the female goats, were streaked, speckled, and spotted. And the angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob. And I said, here I am. We talked about this before. This is a huge theme. If God speaks to you, you don't know what to say what all these boys say, which is perfectly fine. Here I am. He said, look up and see, all the rams which are mating with the flock are streaked, speckled, and spotted, for I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. God is seeing all of the treachery and the deception of Laban. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar, where you made a vow to me. Now stand up and leave this land and return to the land of your birth. It's time to go back home. Rachel and Leah answered him, is there still any portion or inheritance for us in your father's house? Are we not counted by him as foreigners? For he sold us into your marriage and has also entirely used our purchase price. And so they're kind of saying, there's nothing left for us here. The money that was given to him for us getting married, he's already used up all of that as well. Surely all the riches which God has taken from our father are ours and our children's. Now then, whatever God has told you to do, do it. So basically his wives are on board. They're like, listen, there's nothing left for us here. So we're married to you. Let's go. Then Jacob stood and took action and put his children and his wives on camels. And he drove away all his livestock and took along all his property, which he had acquired, the livestock which he had obtained and accumulated in Padan Aram. Again, this is like very, very far north Israel. To go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. When Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel went inside the house and stole her father's household gods. And Jacob deceived Laban, the Aramean, by not telling him that he intended to leave, and he slipped away secretly. So he managed to get the whole family and the whole clan, all the boys, all the animals out of there while Laban was out in the field. So he fled with everything that he had, and he got up and crossed the river, the Euphrates, and he set his face toward the hill country of Gilead, east of the Jordan River. So he's heading south, but the place he's going is east of the Jordan River. Laban pursues Jacob. So on the third day after his departure, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he took his relatives with him and pursued him for 7 days, and they overtook him in the hill country of Gilead. Now, let's see if I'm going to go ahead and erase all these names. Let's see if I have a map that shows where Gilead is. Hopefully I do. East of the Jordan River. Yeah, okay. So if you're watching online, we have very far north up here. Very far north up here. And north farther, actually, way farther north, is Padan Aram. And so he heads south past Mount Hermon, Bethsaida, past the Sea of Galilee to Ramoth Gilead in the hill country east of the Jordan. So now we're modern Israel ends around where Mount Carmel does. I can tell you right now if it does. This is just a side note. Yeah, it ends around up there. So let's go back to, where is that map? Okay. So now they're here in Ramoth Gilead in the hill country. It's in Israel. So God came to Laban, the Aramean, in a dream that night and said to him, "Be careful that you do not speak to Jacob either good or bad." Now he does go on to talk to Jacob, but it could be God saying, hey, cool your jets, all right? Because you're going to do something you regret if you don't calm down a little bit, bud. So I want to read this part about the household gods. We kind of just jumped through that part a little bit, but it's going to become important here in a second. It says this in the Amplified. Laban's family may have been polytheistic, believing in many gods, as Abraham's father Terah evidently was as well. Considering the evidence of verses 25 to 50, it seems that they worshipped Yahweh along with other lesser gods. In this culture, the possession of the gods was the right of the principal heir. Rachel probably did not steal the idols in order to worship them, but because they represented ownership of her father's property. So, again, Rachel's not the oldest born either, so it's very odd all the way around that she would take these household gods, and it's kind of funny what she does to them too. So here's what it says. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent on the hill, and Laban with his relatives camped on the same hill of Gilead. So again, that's just to the right of the Jordan River. Laban said to Jacob, "What do you mean by deceiving me and leaving me without my knowledge and carrying off my daughters as if they were captives by the sword?" So imagine this is like The Bachelor, okay? This is like the evening time when everything's come to a head. Everybody's upset. Everybody's emotional. And Laban's kind of losing his mind a little bit. "Why did you run away secretly and deceive me and not tell me so that otherwise I might have sent you away with joy, with songs and music on the tambourine and the lyre? Why did you not allow me to kiss my grandchildren and my daughters goodbye now that you have done this foolish thing? Now you have done a foolish thing in behaving like this." So all this, he's probably been sitting on that donkey for 3 days. I just can't believe my son-in-law would do this. I just can't believe that he would, deceive me like this. He's probably just been stewing about it for days, which is probably another good reason why the Lord came to him and said, "Hey, you need to cool your jets a little bit." All this is coming to a head. he says, it is, verse 29, it is in my power to harm you, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, be careful not to speak to Jacob either good or bad. So he's still talking to him, which is kind of flat out against what God told him. But he's also like staying his hand. Maybe he was thinking, I'm actually gonna kill that dude for taking away all my family so quickly. Verse 30, now I suppose you felt you must go because you were homesick for your father's house and family, but why did you steal my household gods? He's like, you know what? I can get it to a degree, but why did you have to go and steal my household gods? And Jacob answered Laban, I left secretly because I was afraid, I thought that you might take away your daughters by force from me. He's like, now about the household gods, the one with whom you find your God shall not live. You can kill them, okay? I didn't take them. In the presence of our relatives, search my possessions and point out whatever you find that belongs to you and take it. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the idols. So Laban went into Jacob's tent and then to Leah's tent and the tent of the two maids, but he did not find them. Then he came out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now we know Rachel's the one that actually has them. Now Rachel had taken the household idols, put them in the camel's saddlebag, and sat on top of them. Laban searched through all her tent, but did not find them. So Rachel said to her father, do not be displeased, my lord. She's like, don't be upset, Dad, that I cannot rise and stand up before you, for the manner of women is on me, and I am unwell. He searched further, but did not find the household gods. Now that's pretty funny. She says, I can't stand up because I'm on my period. And it's even funnier that she's sitting in this state on top of the household gods and the household idols. And I think God thinks that's funny too, because God does not like idols. And if you need to know why, you should just read Isaiah. God does not like household idols, and it's funny that she's sitting on them like that. So then Jacob became angry and argued with Laban. He said, Laban, what is my fault? What is my sin that you have pursued me like this? So now Jacob's like, listen, you've accused me of all this stuff. I've run away from you for a good reason. What is your problem, man? And so it's kind of coming to a head. And he says, although you have searched through all my possessions and you have found, what have you found of your household gods? Like, you looked through everything. We didn't take them. Of course, he doesn't know that they did. Put it here before my relatives and your relatives so that we may decide who of us has done right, the two of us. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not lost their young, nor have I eaten the rams of your flocks. I did not bring to you the torn carcasses of the animals attacked by predators. I personally took the loss. You required of me to make good everything that was stolen, whether it occurred by day or night. Now that's very important. That's something that we don't really understand as, first world people, what he's talking about. And so if you had, let's say you had a sheep, okay, King David would have been very familiar with this, and you have the shepherd, okay? If a sheep is taken by a lion, okay? Sheep is taken by a lion. It is up to the shepherd to chase after the lion. Not, obviously you want to rescue the sheep, but he's actually going to just get maybe even an ear or a hoof or some body part of the sheep that proves to the owner, because the shepherd is often not the owner of the sheep, he's a hired hand, to the owner that the shepherd did not just take the sheep and sell them off somewhere. The sheep was actually stolen by the lion. Shepherd goes and get a portion of the sheep and then takes it back to the owner to say, hey, I didn't steal it and, make money on the side. Here's proof. All right. You lost one. I don't know what to tell you. But Jacob has actually done something different where in this case, he didn't ever do that to Laban. He simply took the loss himself as the shepherd. And that's a very big thing for him to do in this case. So this was my situation. By day, the heat consumed me, and by night, the cold, I could not sleep. These 20 years I've been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for the share of your flocks. And you have changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, the feared one of Isaac, had not been with me, most certainly you would have sent me away by now, empty-handed. God has seen my affliction and my humiliation at the exhausting labor of my hands, so he rendered judgment and rebuked you last night. So basically he's pointing out that, listen, Laban, you've been in the wrong for 20 years, and I kept my mouth shut, and I have been good to you, and God has been faithful to me this whole time. And so, yeah, God has paid me back. And yeah, I finally took my family and got out of here. Yeah, you couldn't find any of your idols. So what are you complaining about? Like, this is all coming to a head. It's like a soap opera, okay? So Laban answered Jacob, these women that you married are my daughters. These children are my grandchildren. These flocks are from my flocks. All that you see here is mine. So even though he has given his daughters away in marriage, even though Jacob has rightfully gained these flocks that are speckled and spotted, Laban still sees them as if they're his. You know, he's not let go. He's a treacherous man. But he says, but what can I do today to these my daughters or to their children to whom they have given birth? So come now, let us make a covenant between you and I, and let it serve as a witness between you and me. So he's kind of like, all right, it sounds like we're both in the wrong. Okay. I don't really think Jacob's in the wrong, but Laban thinks he is, but he's like, let's just bury the hatchet. Okay. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a memorial pillar, just like in Bethel. And Jacob said to his relatives, gather stones. And they took stones and made a mound of stones, and they ate a ceremonial meal together there on the mound of stones. So again, very important. The meal is central. And as a youth pastor, I see a lot of my students do not have family meals with their family, with their parents, for a whole litany of reasons. And I think that's something very sad that kind of the first world is letting go of. They don't have family meals together. And because there's something special about the family meal. I always loved our family meals at home. And so, yeah, it goes back a long way, the meal together. Laban called it Jagar Sahadutha, Jagar Sahadutha, stone monument of testimony in Aramaic. But Jacob was like, all right, whatever. We'll just call it Gilead. All right, that's much easier to say. I bet he probably said that. And I didn't research this part, but that's probably where Gilead came from. Gilead. My Hebrew professor could probably tell me it's not wrong, but he's not here. So Laban said, this mound of stones is a witness, a reminder of the oath taken today between you and me. Therefore, he also called the name Gilead. So maybe he was like, you know what? That is a better name. And Mizpah, watchtower for Laban, said, may the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent from one another. If you should mistreat or humiliate or oppress my daughters, or if you should take other wives besides my daughters, although no one is with us as a witness, see and remember that God is a witness between you and me. So he's like, you've been living in my house. I've been able to make sure that you haven't taken any other wives because you've been living at my house. But you're not living in my house anymore. Don't take any other wives because God's watching you. Okay. Laban said to Jacob, look at this mound of stones and at this pillar which I've set up between you and me. This mound is a witness, and this pillar is a witness that I will not pass by this mound to harm you, and you will not pass by this mound, this pillar, to harm me. The God of Abraham, your father, the God of Nahor, my father, the God in the image of worship of their father, Terah, an idolater, judge between us. So, I'm reading here. So it kind of seems like that he's making this, this deal on the authority of not only your God, but all of my gods too. And so it's not great, but I mean, the Lord's the only one that could do something about it. So the Lord is included. Still idolatry. The God of Abraham, your father, the God of Nahor, my father, the God of the image of worship of their father, Terah, an idolater, judge between us. But Jacob swore only by the one true God, the fear of his father Isaac. Good job, Jacob. So again, that's we're getting to see like little bits and pieces of like the faithfulness of Jacob throughout his life, where in this case he's making this image or they're making up this contract between them. And while his father's, swearing on behalf of all these other gods, plus the God of Jacob, Jacob has the wherewithal to say, nope, just the God of Abraham, just the God of Abraham. And I think God rewards that greatly, and God sees that faithfulness right there. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice to the Lord on the mountain and called his relatives to the meal, and they ate food and spent the night on the mountain. Early in the morning, Laban got up and kissed his grandchildren and his daughters goodbye and pronounced a blessing, asking God's favor on them. Then Laban left and returned home. Now, the next chapter is one of the most investigated chapters of the Bible, so I'm sure I'll get everything right. Of course not. There's so much locked into the next chapter, so I encourage you to come back and listen in for chapter 32 and chapter 33 next Monday. But until then, I encourage you, what questions do you have about this text? How do you feel about him marrying all these women? How do you feel about him running away? What do you think about God showing favor to him and giving all of these flocks speckled and spotted, ewes and lambs and things like that? And so what do you think? What do you think about what Laban said? You've run away without me even getting to say goodbye. And so I encourage you to ask any questions in the comments. You can do that on Spotify or YouTube. I apologize that it hasn't been up on Apple Podcasts yet. Somehow I got locked out of being able to add them, and so I'm working it out. It'll get there someday. And so, I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And as always, this has been the Amplified Podcast. We will see you soon.